And I'll tell you, this is a very important topic, the national training on combating terrorist financing. I will tell you in a very simple way. I am a certified ethical hacker. I'm somebody with about 2 decades experience in ethical hacking and countermeasures. And one thing that my boss taught me, and I will never forget this about 20 years ago, is that when the criminal is a step ahead of you, in reality, he's a kilometer ahead. When the criminal is a step ahead of you, in reality, he's a kilometer ahead. And what's the problem? The problem is we not understanding the fact that as agents of the state, we are supposed to be ahead of the criminals. That's the truth. My job as a white hat hacker then was to think, sit down, think, what can a black hat hacker, what can he probably be thinking in his room? Think for the criminal. Preempt and find solutions. That is how you get ahead of the criminal. Let me tell you the truth. They have access to things you don't have access to. Because they have access to illegitimate resources, which you don't have access to. So you need to do twice as much as them to be able to be ahead of them. My brother spoke about financing, and I'll tell you very clearly, that is the truth. But we have to understand, what is the main motivation of terrorism? The main motivation of terrorism is ideology. That's the truth. And let me tell you, it's impossible to defeat an ideological-minded individual without a superior ideology. So, when you're fighting an ideological battle, you have to come up with what I call the hybrid approach of the kinetic and, of course, the non-kinetic solutions. And for us, I want to say this very clearly. Your job is what we call in IT technology, in IT security, we call it footprinting and audit trail. You must be able to ensure that no matter how faint the footprint of a criminal, a terrorist is, it must be visible to you. Because once you lose track of the trail, once you lose track of the footprint, then you have put the life of 230 million Nigerians in jeopardy. That is the truth. And that's why at every point in time, I always say this, your job is thankless. We can't thank you enough. Because the best of brains are meant to do what you're doing. And of course, I have no fear in my mind. I have no doubt that you're the best of brains that we have. But the simple truth is, we need to put our thinking hat and we need to be creative. You do not fight a creative mind without an inventive strategy. You must be an inventor. You must be a faster thinker for you to fight a creative mind. Let me be sincere with you. If you are a donald, you cannot lead a terrorist gang. They're one of the most brilliant people. Some of them are exceptionally exceptional, intellectually. So, for us to be able to combat this, we have to know, number one, which is where I think we've gotten it right now in Nigeria under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm not talking as his Minister of Interior. I'm not speaking here as Minister of Interior. Please, these are my own thoughts. So when I speak about the President, I'm speaking as somebody who understands the idea of the President. The President, number one, is very interested in fighting poverty. Because I'll give you statistics. As of September this year, according to the IMF, you look at the 10 poorest countries in the world based on per capita income. Interestingly, the first 9 are African countries. The 10th is Yemen. Number 1, South Sudan. 2, Burundi. 3, Central African Republic. 4, Democratic Republic of Congo. 5, Mozambique. 6, Niger. 7, Malawi. 8, Liberia. 9, Madagascar. Number 10, Yemen. What this tells you, look at these countries, look at the terrorism index, and you will know poverty is directly proportional to terrorism. So when people talk about physical warfare, terrorism, I tell people, it is not just physical terrorism, it is economic terrorism. They're intertwined. And when, by contrast, you look at the list of the 10 richest countries in the world, by virtue of, when you look at the 10 richest countries in the world, by virtue of per capita income, please permit me to, the 10 richest countries, the 10 biggest economies in the world. You look at the United States of America, number 1. That's in terms of GDP here. The United States, China, Germany, Japan, India, United Kingdom, France, Brazil, Italy, and Canada. Tell me 2 of these countries where you have established terrorist rings. So when you're asking the question for Africa, why are we on the lower rung of the ladder in terms of economic emancipation? It is connected to terrorism. Because the money that should ordinarily have gone towards economic development, the money that should have gone into value addition, the money that should have gone into creating conducive environment for enterprise to thrive, these funds are being used to destroy the state. So, for us in Africa, it is unacceptable that in the top 10 poorest countries in the world, number 1 to 9 are African countries. It means that GIABA will have a lot of work to do. Nigerian government will have a lot of work to do. Every state in Africa will have work to do. Having spoken about this, it is also important for me to also tell you one of the things. I sincerely believe, yesterday, unfortunately, we declared a public holiday, but we were at work yesterday. Yesterday, National Identity Day. I was there for like 6 hours. I sat down, listened to Eric. Normally, it's, the minister will just come, listen to her. Now I said, listen, one problem we must solve if we are to move forward is to learn the meaning of workshop. A workshop is not a talk shop. If you talk and you resolve and it does not reflect in implementation, it is corruption in itself because you have wasted government resources. That's the truth. We must work. I spoke yesterday that at the foundation of fight against terrorism, if we are to get it right, are 2 things. And this is why, as my brother said, it's like mushroom. The more we remove, the more it multiplies. And that is the reason why this popular saying that they tried to bury me, not knowing that I'm a seed, has worked for terrorists in Africa. Because of our failure to aggregate 2 things, we have to be practical. I tell people, see, I'm sorry, I'm just a man that likes to speak my mind. I mean, love it, take it, I say my mind. But there are 2 things I think we must get right. Number 1 that we must get right is what I call individual and corporate identity management. Individual. The identity of everybody in Nigeria must be seen. Identity fraud must be nil. It must be impossible for one person to be able to open different accounts, or for one person to have an account in this name, have insurance in another name. Because in the financial circle, a lot of people, insurance and other things are avenues where people even launder some of these funds. That is the truth. It doesn't mean it should be the banking sector alone, no. Even on the stock market, capital market, across board, we must make sure that if you are James Kenny anywhere, you are James Kenny everywhere. We must be able to understand that. And we must be able to understand corporate identity, corporate companies, entities, and different people. We must know the promoters. We must have real details of who they are, what they are, and everything that they do. It is very important. Not until we are able to get that we will be able to be ahead, we will be able to forecast trends. If you cannot forecast trend, if you cannot project, if you cannot be able to predict, believe me, you will always be reactive. And that is what has happened in Africa. Terrorists will attack. We are going after them. We are going after them. We are going after them. Terrorists will be doing the hard work of thinking. What is government thinking? Not government just sitting and saying, oh, we are running after these people. So individual and corporate identity management solution is very key. And that is what we are trying to do with NIMSI, especially in Nigeria. And we will do that. I raised it with the Account Secretary General in Montreal. The era when somebody carries a Nigerian passport with a name, that same Nigerian goes to Gambia, gets a passport with another name. He opens an account in Nigeria with a name, he opens an account in another country with another name. That era should be gone. That is what ECOWAS, that is what AU is meant for. Let's call it spade a spade. We must, I told them at the level of ICAO, we arrested somebody some months ago. The case is in court. And the person came into Nigeria with a Nigerian passport with a name. And when she wanted to leave, her British passport carried another name. Yes. In a globalized world, in the 21st century. Well, no, that's what happened. Because the database, the passport data, biometric database of Nigeria is not being shared with any other one. So you can claim to be anybody anywhere else in the world and carry two different passports of two different countries with different names. And that's what I tell people. I am convinced that majority of the people giving Nigeria bad name in diaspora, most of them are not Nigerians, they only carry Nigerian identity. And that is something we must sort out. So individual and corporate identity management solution is very, very key. We must be able to harmonize that at least at a regional level. That is number one. Because no country can fight terrorism on its own. We must come together. It has gone beyond a single domain. It's now a regional thing. It started from the Sahel, as we said. Now it's going to the Gulf of Guinea. Because we didn't collaborate at the level of the Sahel in terms of information sharing, in terms of database harmonization, and etc. Now, it's moving to this way. If we do not commit, it will extend further. So it means that we must change our strategy. That is the truth. Number two is what I call integrity and document authentication system. It's very key. And I want to assure you, I briefed the DG of NFIU. We're already working on that. It's called a CIDAS solution. Nigeria will be one of the first to launch CIDAS in the world. And it's called Centralized Citizens Integrity and Document Authentication System. If there's any document in Nigeria issued, even if it is a pin of paper, that we issue anywhere, so fight is anything issued in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, real time, we will harmonize the database and we will verify it anywhere in the world. We will do that. We are at the verge of completion. completing that. Because I know I'm a Nigerian, and I tell people my biggest asset, the biggest gift of my life is my citizenship of this great country. And I will not allow anybody to brand me with an identity that is not mine. We are not fantastically corrupt. We are fantastically intelligent, brilliant, hardworking people. But in a scenario where you do not provide the opportunity for authentication real time, you will be subject to guesswork. And when your identity and your integrity is subjected to guesses, then you should know abuse will become inevitable. So we are doing that very soon. And also, I need to also tell you this. 2 weeks ago, I was in Montreal at level of ICAO. Nigeria was imported into the PKI-PKD, the global directory of ICAO. And what that means, basically, is that once you carry a Nigerian passport now, any airport in the world, it takes less than 4 seconds. Any bank anywhere in the world with a Nigerian passport, it takes less than 4 or 5 seconds to authenticate your passport and your person. We have been able to do that because we must use ourselves. And that is why you get to Heathrow. Somebody carries an American passport or carries another passport. It takes them a few seconds to let him go. They look at you. They look at the passport. They look at you. They now start analyzing you. Do you have dreads? No. Remove your glasses. Let's do it. No, we cannot. We are too big to be treated in that manner. We have to put our house in order. And that's what we do. Also, when you get to our airports now, you will see that the e-gate solutions are already up there. The e-gate is not just for convenience. It's for convenience and security. And what it means, basically, is that you come into my country, when it's ready, we're just waiting for the president to launch it. You come into my country, you put your passport on the e-gate, it transmits it straight to the database. There's a query, it looks at Interpol, look at every and whatever. Don't worry, there are certain details I'll be able to talk about here. But the bottom line is, if you know you're a criminal or you have a suspicious background, don't come to Nigeria. You will not get it. And that's the truth. So once we control our border solution, once we are able to handle individual and corporate identity management, then we will now need to sit down and we handle our integrity and document authentication system. Believe me, you will completely shut the conventional financial sector. Once we shut that, the next thing will just be for us to focus on the informal. The problem we have today is that we're fighting too many battles at the same time. And the battles from different fronts are fast becoming wars. And that is a problem. Lastly, let me speak about the API solution. On Thursday, IATA came to train over 100 of our immigration officers. Nigeria now is the 16th country in the world to have what we call an interactive advanced passenger information system. That's been done. And to the glory of God, before anybody comes into Nigeria, we know who you are, we profile you before you get here. That is the truth. Our screening process now is very objective, no longer subjective. And that is who we are as a people. All I'm trying to say is that this is a workshop. Please, forget about the lyrics. Don't see yourself as being in a classroom setting. The best of ideas can come from the smallest of minds. Every idea, that's how we work in Ministry of Interior. A lot of our innovations, we listen to everybody. We believe that the slightest opinion might be the saving grace. Please, Let us brainstorm. Let us understand that we need to build a solution. If the United States, with a population higher than Nigeria, if India, with a population 6 times that of Nigeria, if China, with a population 5 times as Nigeria, if it's about landmass, with Canada of landmass, arguably more than 50 times Nigeria, if they can secure the country against terrorism, we have no reason to fail. We are Nigerians. This is Nigeria, the biggest black nation on earth. That should not just count for numbers. It should count for performance. We are pace setters. We are to lead the way. Let's create ideas that other countries will come here and copy. We are tired of copying and pasting. We want to also export ideas. This is Nigeria, a country where collaboration works, a country where ideas drive ideologies, a country where the right ideology drives our motivation. And what is our motivation? A big Nigeria for a bigger Africa, for a safer universe. God bless you.